People can no longer respect the rule of law, and government seems to not have control over things, then things must have fallen apart. All right, so we would try as much as we can to ensure that we do not get to that point where Nigeria is considered a completely failed state, and that means that we must all respect the rule of law. We must all obey court orders. When people begin orders at all levels, then you'd wonder what situation it is and where we are as a nation. So my guest this morning is a regular now on the show. It's good to have him this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Barrister Kelechi, for joining in this morning. How was your weekend, by the way? Good to see you.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to the show this morning. It was an amazing weekend, but it was filled with a lot of quite interesting news.
Yes, let's start off by talking about where do we even start now? There's just a lot that has happened in the last 72 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start off with this one that has emerged on social media, discussing a bit of controversy, a purported, court order that emerged even before, ruling, or before a proper hearing is done. The court order is dated 18th of March, but it surfaced online on the 17th of March, yesterday, and people are wondering how is this possible? What is this? And how come court documents like that, very sensitive document like that, could be leaked? Is it even true? Is it possible that such a thing could leak? Is it possible that an order could have been prepared ahead of time and then it gets out, to the public space before then? As a lawyer, what does that say to you?
Well, like every time I come on the show, I remember always making this point that when it comes to the gymnastics of law that we see display in this public space, it's actually a reflection of what we are trying to cure, or the general malady in the society. It's a symptom that there is a problem somewhere, and until we Nigerians solve this problem, these symptoms will be showing up in different ways, showing up in different phases and in different manners. I tell you, we will still see more of these symptoms, but yes, it is very possible to have such symptoms show up, but it's a question to ask: who is behind the curtain? How can such a thing happen? Again, there are symptoms that there is something that needs to be treated.
Okay, now let's go on to talk about one of the big ones. Emerged on Friday, the Supreme Court's ruling on Nnamdi Kanu. Saying that the man should go ahead to face the courts and prove himself innocent before the courts. Many had expected that, the Supreme Court was going to, grant him, some level of bail or something, or release him unconditionally, considering the extraordinary rendition that, for which he was repatriated or brought back into the country. How does that meet you? Because we've seen some people say, that the court ruling was disappointing. Somebody said, look, that is very sound judgment. If a person is accused of certain things, if he's accused of terrorism, the Supreme Court throwing out the judgment of the Court of Appeal, saying that the man, Nnamdi Kanu, shouldn't have.
Supreme Court concerning Nnamdi Kanu is it has more of political undertone, which because to start with, before now, just like the ex-CBN governor who has been granted bail, and then we still see someone who is granted bail or someone who is supposed to be on bail still being held back. Now again, this also will run around the dynamics of security, And usually, when it comes to security and intelligence, there are certain information you and I, as the general public, may not be privileged to. And these things are as sensitive as they go. When they are released, it may actually cause more harm. It may actually cause more trouble for the society. So carefully managing those details, carefully managing those information could lead to certain actions being taken. But is it correct to hold him against the constitutional right which he has to be released and to face trial? Yes, of course, he's entitled to answer for himself. Whatever accusation that is laid against him, or whatever cause that is laid against him, he is entitled to defend himself. And I think he should be also fully granted that opportunity. And so it's really not out of place to have him defend himself. The only thing we are saying is for us to ensure that it is done judiciously and juridically.
So what this means is that he would continue to be held, because I didn't say that the courts granted him bail or said he should be released and then go ahead to face the trial, because the terrorism charges is not something that anyone would just wake up one morning to go to court. It takes a while. You have to prepare yourself. So would this mean that he's going to remain in custody until they're able to go through the trial process, or would the courts now send him to the correctional center to be at the correctional center, like we've seen with the former CBN governor?
Well, you already made a comment which I will agree with you. Terrorism charges are very sensitive charges. And again, I would say when it comes to information in the public space, we can only get as much as we are allowed to. There are certain information we may not be able to access for the sake of proper intelligence, for the sake of protecting certain quarters of the country from exploding or imploding, as it were. Because before now, you and I would have looked at it from, of course, sentimentally, oh, he's been held back because he is from a particular quarter of the country. But I believe we have to manage this information carefully. We have to manage whatever information that goes out there carefully, so that whatever intelligence that is within the grasp of the security agencies, they are not being twisted to release such, or they are not being forced. At the same time, we should also exercise reasonable caution to see to it that his rights too, which is not just a fundamental right, an international right, are properly protected.
Interesting. We'll see how that plays out in the coming days. But again, in this, you mentioned something that really tickled my interest, and that's the fact that a lot of times we place, personal sentiments, ethnic sentiments, and religious sentiments above even national interest, because if this person is from our region, then they shouldn't be going through this. We've seen that play out on several occasions. Every time there's a court case against somebody or something, so he's been prosecuted because he's from this part of the country, or he's from that other part of the country, and also this is taking that tone of, they are terrorists from the north. Nobody has prosecuted them the way they're prosecuting Nnamdi Kanu, even though they're all terrorism charges and all of those